Lauren, come on in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind, please.
Hi. Yeah, I'm in DC. Um, and I just wanted to rage vent a little bit about the whole constitutional crisis talking point that we've had this week. Like, I've actually been screaming at my television when CNN is on. It all started with a tweet from JD Vance saying that judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. That's true, right? And then the issue just becomes, okay, but who determines whether the executive's power in a certain case is legitimate or not? The executive branch or the courts? But of course, Democrats and the media were like, oh, let's create a talking point out of this. Let's take two logical leaps and say that that tweet means that he thinks possibly, definitely, we don't have to follow the courts. We can just defy the courts. We're in a
Yeah.
constitutional crisis. This is after 4 years of every time the Supreme Court, Judge Eileen Cannon, Judge Duncan, the Fifth Circuit did rulings that the Democrats and the media didn't like. The talking point was that the judges are terrible and political, and the courts are terrible. AOC literally was trying to say that the Biden administration shouldn't follow the Supreme Court. And in those instances, the media, because it's the media that I'm furious at, the media's narrative talking point in those instances were about how bad the courts were. It wasn't about, oh, the Democrats are undermining our confidence in the courts. Are they going to defy the courts? This is bad. So I'm just like so furious that you have some criticism going on of the courts, which I don't like, regardless of the party. And we're suddenly in a constitutional crisis. So when
Yeah.
Trump said what he said in the press
Yep.
conference, I was like, and so I don't want to hear one more word.
Lau- Lauren, I agree with you about what the Democrats did and about the hypocrisy now and about the performance of the media. But what I would add is that should not give people who like Donald Trump or like what the administration's doing, that should not cause them to to drop their vigilance regarding the separation of powers that's important, not fetishizing it as some magical tool. But if they violate court orders that are legitimate and do it in a way that threatens the balance of power and the branches, conservatives should be concerned. I'm not saying they have, but I worry that one of the dynamics that's going on now is there's so much MAGA glee at ousting the Democrats and making them deal with the consequences of Trump's victory that conservative principles are just being tossed aside.
What's
I mean,
happening,
he's being
right?
pretty chill for a guy who was nearly killed.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
What's
to
Twice.
some
happening on the
extent.
right right now is the same thing that was happening amongst the base of the left the last 4 years. Let's impeach all these judges, let's ignore the ruling, pack the court. It's the same thing now with the right being like, oh my God, these judges are so corrupt. Like, no, they're not corrupt, okay? They're applying the law. And it's the same exact thing happening in this administration that happened in the last administration. It's just the
Yeah.
executive branch tries to, push the limits of his power as much as it can because it wants to get stuff done without having to go through Congress because we're too partisan to agree on anything in Congress. So then the executive branch does what it wants to do, says we'll fight it out in the courts, and depending on, the makeup of the courts, they can just blame the courts. And that's what happens. And that's what's happening. But I just can't stand the media double uh
Lauren, I
standard.
Lauren, I agree with you.